Toastmasters, Madam Chair, and guests. Today I'm going to be talking you through what's a Pecha Kucha talk about the last time that I had to do a 6-month lockdown. Pecha Kucha is normally 20 slides shown for 20 seconds, and they each need to be individual images which have no relation to each other. I've taken a little bit of license as I've got a little bit more time. Today it's going to be 30 images for 30 seconds. Now I'm sure for most of you, your life and your job has completely changed and you're no longer doing what you thought you were going to be doing in this week in April. I was meant to be in Greece photographing a virus, ironically, conference, and this is what I would normally be doing. Going around for 18 hours of a day, photographing a lot of geeks and scientists. So I had to completely change what I'm doing. I don't get to go and sample wonderful international foods and photograph a lot of wonderful people who I've got to know in the scientific world. I've had to change what my business does and what my daily life is. And I'm sure the rest of you have also had to do the same. And I didn't think I would have to be redoing this again. So what am I doing now? Instead of being behind the camera, I'm now in front of the camera almost all day. And I'm teaching people, particularly academics and business people, how to present themselves best on Zoom, because the most computer cameras are absolutely rubbish. And we all need a little bit of a professional advice as to how to trick the camera to make you look the best that you normally do in real life. I spent a lot of time already figuring out how to do that, particularly for existing relationships that you might already have, but for developing relationships ongoing, because this is not a situation that's going to go away. And perhaps it's something we're all going to have to embrace in the future. And given some of the talks that we've already had, I think a lot of people are indicating that it's something we are going to be continuing with our businesses and with our jobs. So my story today is how this all happened the first time. 8 years ago, I was competing in Henley in a quad race, and I had been training for 9 months, twice a day, 6 days a week, racing every Sunday. I also was doing 2 jobs, and I was captain of boats, and I was working and living between here and Italy at the time. Not a very easy life to maintain. On the day of the race, we had an absolutely wonderful time, but it was a combination of a lot of stress and of doing way too much for me. On the same day, just to highlight how ridiculous my life was at the time, I also then ran off to Ascot that afternoon with my best friend Abby, who's sitting in front of me in the boat. And this was a tradition that we had had for 5 years. So there was no way that we weren't going to go to Ascot just because we happened to be competing first thing in the morning. So the next morning I woke up with a cold, whatever. But I didn't get out of bed for 3 weeks because I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe, but I couldn't sleep. Everything that I knew had completely disappeared and broken. I couldn't leave the house. I wasn't able to talk to people. I had no short-term memory. It was the complete opposite of the life that I'd been living. And it was terrifying because I had to let it all go. And for someone who's a bit of a control freak, accepting that that was mine now was very, very difficult. So for all of you right now, think about this is what we're in. It's not forever, but it is for now. At the time, my only real company throughout the day was my dog, Indiana. And he thought it was brilliant. I was on the couch for 7 hours a day. I went to work for 1 hour of the day, but that was all I could manage. I literally got totally confused after an hour. I couldn't remember what we talked about the day before. So this is my housemate, Joey, at the time. And bless her, she was the most supportive person ever, because suddenly I was around 24 hours a day, which up to that point pretty much never happened. So she taught me how to just embrace being at home, because it's not something that came naturally. This is her teaching me how to make bread, because as a lot of you probably found, going to find baking ingredients, everybody's decided they're bakers. And that's great, because actually having something tangible every day is a really crucial turning point in grieving for what you've lost, but also celebrating what we're gaining. Yes, it's different from what we had, but for every muffin, every piece of bread, every cake that you make, it's something different. But for me, this went on. 3 months down the road, it turned autumn, and I was still indoors. And I was still grappling with why I couldn't walk, why I still had a cold, why I was thirsty all the time, and no doctors were coming up with any solutions or any suggestions as to how to cope with this. And we went through all sorts of suggestions, that I had depression, a virus, that I had all sorts of random things that they couldn't do anything about. 3 months in, I was saving up all my energy to go for a half-an-hour run on Sundays with Indy. That was all I could physically manage. And I look back on that now and just think, I can't believe that that's how low it got. My sister then bought me a book called The Power of Now. Now, if you haven't read this, I would highly recommend it. A lot of people have, but it suddenly solidified everything that I was fighting. And fighting that I wanted just to go back to what I knew was normal. But this wasn't what was going to happen. I had to just accept this is where I was, and I was there for a reason. Now, the second point is, have you ever considered whether you're a moving or a still meditation person? I hate sitting still, even for 10 minutes, meditating, because it just doesn't work. For me, I'm a Tai Chi person, and I move around, and it works brilliantly for me. It helps me stay calm and centered. But a lot of people don't do meditation because they don't realize that they're a moving person. So can I ask everybody to quickly stand up? I'm just going to do this for 30 seconds for the next slide. Does everyone stand up? I want to see everybody standing up. Quick, quick, quick. Okay. So if you could do what I'm doing and just see if you start breathing completely differently when you do this. Yeah, I can see a lot of you doing it. So if you find that that's making a difference to how you feel, I've all made you stand up. Thank you very much, everybody. A brief little suggestions getting you to keep moving. It's worth considering whether you need to do moving meditation, not still meditation. If you're a still meditation person, amazing, but it's not for everybody. And that was the turning point for me, because I then realized that just doing simple things like Tai Chi in the morning made my day a whole lot easier. Now, at the time, I was in recruitment, and I wasn't doing photography, it was just a hobby. And Joey, my housemate, signed me up to a photography course, and it was run by a woman who had MS. So she was also in the same situation. She was stuck at home and could only inspire other people from her house. Her whole course was about photographing things that you have in your house that make you smile. And it was really about focusing on the simple things that you had to make you happy. And it sounds incredibly trite, but it truly changed how I felt about the actual location that I was in. It was called the Matchbox Flat for a reason. It had 3 small rooms, and there really wasn't a lot of space for me and Joey. We had no garden and barely enough space for Indy to be there. But because I couldn't handle any guests, Joey was the only person I could photograph. So we had our own little project whilst we were in lockdown. And one of them was sending photographs every day to her boyfriend who lived in Brazil. And it meant that I had something tangible for every single day that we were locked in together. Finally, how does it end? I'm just going to go back because I had got to 6 months and I had realized that I thought, okay, I'm probably going to die. Because no one had figured out what was going on. And I thought, okay, what's on my bucket list? But I'd like you to call it something else. I'd call it my best. Because I decided the only thing on my bucket list was that I had to go and walk with the elephants. And that meant leaving the house, leaving the country, getting on a plane, going to a third world country, and being away from every single medical access that I possibly could have needed. But I just went, I've got to do it. That's it. So I got on the plane and met my best friend Kate, who lives in Tanzania, and we went on safari for a week. Walked with the elephants every day when they appeared, and met some amazing people who are still working on the Manyara Ranch. It's a charity safari, so you only go on there if you want to support the elephants. Oh, that didn't work out very well. There is a phrase that you apparently leave a part of your soul in Africa. This is my soul that I left in Africa. Sorry about that, it's pixelated. It was the last morning and the elephants came up towards the tent almost to say goodbye. So for me, when this lockdown is done and when we're allowed to travel, that's where I'm going. So think about where you're going. So what actually happened? I started with a cold, much like what happens with coronavirus. But I have a very strange condition, and my friend John described this perfectly. He said, how is it that someone as tiny as you is never frightened of anything? And the reason is because I don't have any cortisol in my system. I don't produce the normal adrenaline that we all have when we are frightened. But without it, you also don't survive. So what happened was that they then discovered I was producing no cortisol at all, and that's why I couldn't move. I had no concentration. Oh, I'm really sorry, this is sped up too quick. And I just needed one little pill every day to be able to return to normal life like this. So this isolation period, I don't have any humans with me. I just have a wee dog. And this is Mackenzie and I competing in a canicross race, which is where we would have been yesterday had this not happened. And when we first went on lockdown, I started an Instagram account celebrating a moment every day that we find together that makes us happy. I would encourage all of you to think about which moment of each day that you have that makes you happy. When I reflected on the photos I took from my first lockdown, I was amazed at the things that I thought brought me peace. So my 4 suggestions for you as we go through this, because it's not going to stop anytime soon. Number 1, accept that this is in the now and it will pass. We don't know when it will pass, but it will. Figure out if you are a moving or a still meditation person. This is absolutely crucial. Find joy in the simple every single day. And have a best. Madam Chair, thank you very much.